Tom Cruise, the face of Hollywood blockbusters, came dangerously close to losing everything because of a scandal so massive, the entire world knew about it. How did a man at the top of his game find himself on the verge of a public downfall? Tune in as we uncover the scandal that nearly ended Tom Cruise's career and made him retire from acting for the rest of his life. A tough childhood that shaped a star. Tom Cruise was born on July 3, 1962, in Syracuse, New York. He was the second child out of four in a family that was always on the move. His dad, Thomas Cruise Mapother III, was an electrical engineer, but for him, he was more like the monster under the bed, a bully that terrified the family. His mother, Mary Lee, worked as a special education teacher and did her best to make life bearable. Life was not easy. The family moved around constantly, and money was always tight. Before we delve into this, it's clear that Tom Cruise's childhood held challenges far darker than anyone could have guessed, and what comes next will leave you absolutely stunned. Little Cruise did whatever odd jobs he could, mowing lawns, raking leaves, and delivering newspapers to make ends meet. He attended 15 different schools in 14 years, which meant it was impossible to make friends or settle down. In Canada, where his dad got a job in the military, he finally found something that made sense to him: acting. He joined the drama club, and his teacher said he was a natural. But life threw another curveball. His parents divorced, his mom took the kids back to the States, and his father later died of cancer. He briefly thought about becoming a priest. He even attended a seminary. But that dream didn't last long, thanks to a little too much drinking and mischief that got him expelled. Back in high school, he played football, but trouble followed him there too. He got benched for drinking before a game. Despite all the ups and downs, there was one thing he never gave up on: his dream of becoming an actor. By 1980, he graduated from high school in New Jersey, packed his bags, and was ready to chase that Hollywood dream. Cruise headed straight for New York City after high school, eager to make it big. He worked as a waiter while hustling for auditions, living in a tiny apartment with barely enough money to survive. Eventually, things started to click. He moved to Los Angeles, signed with the Creative Artists Agency, CAA, and got his first role in a small movie called Endless Love in 1981. That opened the door to more opportunities, including a bigger role in Taps, where he played a military cadet. By the time he joined the cast of The Outsiders, Hollywood was starting to notice Cruise. In Risky Business, he played a high school kid who turns his parents' house into a brothel, and suddenly he was everywhere. The movie was a massive hit, and people couldn't get enough of him. As his star continued to rise, he took on a lead role in Legend in 1985, directed by Ridley Scott. It was a fantasy film, and although it wasn't a big success, it showed that Cruise was willing to take risks. But it was Top Gun in 1986 that took his career to another level. He played the cocky pilot Maverick, a role that made him a global superstar. At first, he wasn't sure about the movie, but the producers convinced him by taking him on an actual F-14 ride, and that sealed the deal. He trained hard, learned to ride motorcycles, and even took control of an F-14, though he did end up getting sick during the ride. Top Gun was a massive success, cementing his status as a Hollywood leading man. Then in 1987, Cruise married actress Mimi Rogers. She was the one who introduced him to Scientology, a controversial church that would soon play a huge role in his life. Their marriage didn't last long. They divorced in 1990, blaming busy schedules and a loss of connection. But Scientology stayed. In fact, it became even more important. As Cruise's career took off, he starred alongside Paul Newman in The Color of Money and appeared in Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman, a movie that went on to win multiple Oscars. By 1990, Cruise was working on Days of Thunder, where he met Nicole Kidman. The two quickly became one of Hollywood's favorite couples, marrying on Christmas Eve that year. But behind the scenes, life wasn't always picture perfect. Nicole suffered a heartbreaking miscarriage, which led them to adopt two children. These children would be raised within the Church of Scientology, and as time went on, it became clear that Scientology was beginning to take over more than just Cruise's personal life. It was influencing everything around him. As he became a Hollywood star, his personal life began to show cracks, leading to moments that would shape him in unexpected ways. From courtrooms to spies, the 90s saw Cruise dominate Hollywood. From A Few Good Men to Mission Impossible, he was everywhere. He played a lawyer in The Firm, a vampire in Interview with the Vampire, and the iconic super spy Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, a role that he would become famous for over the next decades. Mission Impossible was Cruise's baby. He co-produced it, helped brainstorm the story, and even did many of his own stunts, which would become one of his trademarks. Hollywood loved him, but behind the cameras, things were getting complicated. Cruise's devotion to Scientology grew, and it started affecting his relationships. Nicole Kidman, who had been a Catholic, struggled to understand his dedication to Scientology. The church's leader, David Miscavige, seemed to have a strong hold over him, and it was rumored that he convinced Cruise he couldn't live without Scientology. Their marriage fell apart, and in 2001, they divorced. Their children chose to stay with him and Scientology, and Nicole moved on, leaving the church behind. As the years went by, Cruise's outspoken support for Scientology started to rub people the wrong way. In 2004, he made headlines when he publicly stated that he believed psychiatry should be outlawed. The following year, he criticized actress Brooke Shields for using antidepressants to treat her postpartum depression. He argued that mental illness wasn't real and that psychiatric medications were dangerous. This sparked a huge backlash, especially when Brooke fired back, telling Cruise to stick to action movies and leave women's health alone. His views on psychiatry also led to a tense interview with Matt Lauer on NBC's Today Show. The two argued on live TV, with Cruise insisting that psychiatric substances were harmful and dismissing their effectiveness. It was a disaster for his image. The media and medical communities criticized Cruise heavily. His words were seen as not just misguided, but dangerous. They were adding to the stigma around mental health and discouraging people from seeking help. Even The Lancet, a respected medical journal, called out his comments. Brooke Shields described his remarks as a disservice to mothers everywhere, and soon after, Cruise realized the damage he had done. He personally apologized to Brooke in 2006, trying to mend what was already a shattered public image. By this point, Tom had become one of the most famous Scientologists in the world, and his connection to the church was undeniable. The rumors were out of control. Some said that Scientology had picked his girlfriends. Others whispered about unpaid labor from members of the church for his benefit. And then in 2005, he met Katie Holmes. Katie was a fan of his movies since she was a kid, and their relationship moved quickly. It was during this time that his most infamous moment happened, the Oprah couch incident. He appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show and, in a wild display of affection, jumped on Oprah's couch, declaring his love for Katie. People were left stunned. Some found it charming, others thought it was bizarre. But one thing was clear: he was no longer the cool, collected star they were used to. Katie and his whirlwind romance led to a lavish wedding, attended by Hollywood royalty and held in an Italian castle, complete with all the rituals of Scientology. But behind the fairy tale wedding, Katie was starting to feel the pressure of the church's influence. They had a daughter, Suri, but the cracks in their relationship began to show. Katie eventually filed for divorce in 2012, and she gained full custody of Suri, keeping her far from Scientology. He was left with limited contact with his daughter, a painful consequence of his devotion to the church. Professionally, he kept pushing boundaries. He returned as Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible 3, which made $400 million, and kept working on new projects. But things had changed. His box office success couldn't completely cover up the personal controversies that followed him. He had a small role in Tropic Thunder, which earned him praise, and took on the lead in Valkyrie, a movie about a plot to assassinate Hitler. He continued doing action movies, his stunts growing more daring each time. He climbed the Burj Khalifa in Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, and by the time he was 56, he was skydiving out of planes for Mission Impossible Fallout. His career kept growing with hit movies, but his personal life, from love to loyalty, started showing problems that fame couldn't fix. The dual life of a Hollywood star. His personal life, though, remained complicated. His connection to Scientology never wavered. It was said that he lobbied politicians to recognize the church as tax-exempt, and stories about his influence within the church kept circulating. Leah Remini, a former Scientologist, claimed that he had changed, becoming more like David Miscavige and more devoted to the church than ever. The church had also been accused of auditioning women to be his girlfriend after his split from Nicole. These stories tarnished his image further, and people began to see him not just as the Hollywood superstar, but as the public face of a controversial and secretive church. Still, he kept working, and he kept pushing the limits of what an action star could do. He starred in Jack Reacher, Oblivion, and Edge of Tomorrow, proving that he could still carry a blockbuster. But when The Mummy reboot flopped in 2017, people began to question whether he was still the box office draw he used to be. The movie was meant to kick off a new Dark Universe franchise, but its failure put those plans on hold. Then came Mission Impossible Fallout, which turned out to be a massive success, earning over $700 million and becoming the highest-grossing film of the series. His stunt work was more intense than ever. He jumped out of a plane from 25,000 feet, broke his ankle while leaping between buildings, and just kept going. It was clear that he was still willing to put everything on the line for his roles, and people loved him for it. Even at the age of 60, he shows no signs of slowing down. He has plans to make a movie in space, working with SpaceX and NASA to make it happen, and he recently returned to one of his most iconic roles with Top Gun Maverick. Despite all the ups and downs, despite all the scandals and controversies, he remains one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. He's an actor who thrives on risk, who takes on the impossible, and who somehow always finds his way back into the spotlight. But as the story of Cruise shows, being at the top comes with a cost. His devotion to Scientology, his troubled marriages, and his controversial opinions have all taken their toll. The question is, how much longer can he keep walking the line between Hollywood icon and Scientology's poster boy? And what will be the next chapter in the wild ride that is his life? Cruise has always had a complicated relationship with fame. For every major hit, there seemed to be an equally significant scandal lurking in the shadows, ready to overshadow his success. After his marriage to Nicole Kidman ended, many were quick to speculate that his deepening ties to Scientology had contributed to their split. In the years that followed, he became one of the most high-profile members of the church. And with that fame came scrutiny, not just of his career, but of his personal choices and beliefs. His relationship with Scientology went beyond just attending services and participating in their programs. Reports began to emerge that suggested he was acting as a spokesperson for the church. He began speaking out about Scientology's teachings in interviews and public appearances, and at times he even seemed to be acting as a recruiter. This kind of devotion is rare for a Hollywood star of his magnitude. Most celebrities prefer to keep their religious beliefs private, but his faith became part of his public persona. However, his dedication to Scientology remained a significant factor in his life. He continued to advocate for the church, even as it faced increasing criticism. The release of the documentary Going Clear: Scientology and the Prison of Belief in 2015 brought renewed scrutiny to the church and to Cruise himself. The documentary detailed some of the controversial practices of Scientology, including allegations of violence and manipulation. He was portrayed as one of the church's most high-profile members, and the film raised questions about his role within the organization. Tom's loyalty to Scientology also impacted his relationships within the industry. It was rumored that his friendship with director Steven Spielberg cooled after Spielberg's doctor faced protests from Scientologists. The protests allegedly began after Spielberg mentioned the doctor had prescribed psychiatric medication, which goes against the teachings of Scientology. The incident put a strain on their working relationship, and they never collaborated again after War of the Worlds in 2005. The stunts got wilder, and the movies got bigger, but his strong ties to a controversial group brought more questions with every success. A career that defies the odds. Still, Tom was determined to stay at the top of his game. The Mission Impossible franchise became his refuge, a series that allowed him to control his narrative, show off his action star credentials, and keep audiences entertained. Each installment became bigger and more ambitious. In Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, he famously scaled the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. The stunt was a testament to Tom's fearlessness and dedication, and it was clear that he was willing to push his body to the limit for the sake of entertainment. Outside of Mission Impossible, Tom continued to take on diverse roles. He starred in American Made, a biographical film about a pilot who becomes involved in substance smuggling, and The Mummy, which was intended to kickstart a new cinematic universe. Unfortunately, The Mummy was a box office disappointment, and plans for the Dark Universe were scrapped. Despite this setback, Tom kept working, and he kept pushing himself to take on new challenges. But while Tom's professional life continues to thrive, his personal life remains complex. His dedication to Scientology has cost him relationships, and the controversy surrounding the church shows no signs of fading away. The question remains, how much longer can Tom Cruise walk the tightrope between being a beloved Hollywood icon and a loyal Scientologist? His story is one of incredible highs and devastating lows, of blockbuster success and public scandal. And yet, through it all, Tom Cruise remains one of the most fascinating figures in Hollywood. Tom Cruise's career has been a testament to resilience. He has faced obstacles that would have ended the careers of most actors: public ridicule, failed marriages, and a controversial religion that has cast a shadow over his life. And yet he continues to be one of the most bankable stars in the world. He has reinvented himself time and again, moving from the heartthrob of risky business to the action hero of Mission Impossible. He has taken risks, pushed boundaries, and done things that no other actor would dare to do. Tom's dedication to his craft is undeniable. He has thrown himself out of planes, scaled the tallest buildings, and risked injury, all for the sake of entertaining audiences. He has redefined what it means to be an action star, proving that age is just a number when it comes to physical performance. But beneath the stunts and the blockbusters, there is a complicated man. A man whose devotion to Scientology has shaped his life in ways that many struggle to understand. Tom Cruise's future in acting might look uncertain, but one thing's for sure: he's not stopping anytime soon. He's famous for taking on wild stunts, whether that's leaping from planes, planning movie shoots in space, or tackling classic roles from his past. Tom's life has been like a wild ride, filled with both incredible peaks and serious setbacks. But through all of this, he continues to be a standout figure in Hollywood, a star whose light doesn't dim no matter how hard things get. His life story isn't finished yet. The next parts are sure to be packed with the same excitement, debates, and suspense that his career has always had. Whether you're a fan or not, there's no overlooking Tom Cruise. He's devoted his life to keeping us entertained, no matter what it costs him. And as long as there are people out there wanting action-packed entertainment, you can bet Tom Cruise will be there, ready to take on the next big challenge. Every new movie he works on seems to break new ground, especially with the demanding stunts and roles he chooses. From learning to fly fighter jets for a movie to doing daring stunts on top of moving cars, Cruise is more than just an actor. He's a force of nature in the film industry. His dedication to perfection and pushing past the usual limits makes each of his films a big deal. Even with the ups and downs in his personal life, his dedication to his art and his knack for thrilling audiences all over the world stays strong. As we look forward to what he does next, Tom Cruise is ready to keep us all watching, wondering, and enjoying his relentless energy and commitment. Tom Cruise isn't just maintaining the pace, he's setting it. His ability to do what seems impossible keeps elevating the standards of cinema, showing that there are still new heights to reach in filmmaking. Whether he's battling against time in a race to save the world on screen or mastering complex skills for his roles, Cruise is a perpetual thrill seeker, dedicated to his craft. The coming years in Tom's life will likely be as dynamic and charged as ever, with more feats, more controversies, and more of the unparalleled zeal that he brings to the screen. Was Tom Cruise's near downfall entirely his doing, or was he a victim of forces beyond his control? Share your thoughts and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.